It is Matt here from Scoop in Response. Today we're going to be looking at a deck using a new C21 commander, which is Losheel Clockwork Scholar. When Losheel was spoilt, I think it was really overshadowed by a whole bunch of other commanders. There's some really cool build-arounds that have come out with this set. I'm really excited to show you what we've done with this particular commander. So Losheel Clockwork Scholar reads as follows. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. Whenever one or more artifact creatures enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So the interesting thing about Losheel is that it is a card draw engine in white, which is pretty sweet. For 2 and a white, it's a 2/4, so it's pretty sturdy as well. The deck that we have built is going to be never attacking really with Losheel, but it certainly is an aggressive creature deck. So the way that we have built this is using Golem Tribal. And what we're going to be doing with this particular build is we are going to be trying to draw as many cards as we can using all of our artifact creatures. It's almost entirely artifact creatures in this particular list, namely golems, and we're going to be doing some weird and wonderful crazy things with all of the things that golems do, because they're quite a unique tribe in that they have a whole bunch of different effects for each one. So let's check out the deck. Firstly, we've got creatures. So off the top, we have Stonecoil Serpent, which is just a great 0-drop, I guess, artifact. We're going to be using that just so that we can get those triggers off. But given that it only lets us draw 1 card per turn, it's really important that we have flash in this deck. So we're going to be using Shimmer Mirror, as well as a whole bunch of other, I guess, effects to get flash on our creatures. So we've got Shimmer Mirror in the deck. We're also going to be using the Vidalcan Orrery, which is a fantastic card just on its own. Everything has flash, and we've also got Emergence Zone in the deck as well, which is 3 sources of flash. So hopefully, we shouldn't have too much of an issue when it comes to being able to cast on each of our opponent's turns, or at least on one of them each round. So Stonecoil Serpent being our first creature, it's a 0-drop, but you pay X and it enters with X+1 counters, protection from multicolored, reach, and trample. So it's just an awesome commander card. I really love this card in a whole range of formats actually, but I think it's a very underrated card. So at the moment, I think it's like $2. Maybe pick one up if you can, or a play set. Aethersworn Canonist, each player who has cast a non-artifact spell this turn can't cast additional non-artifact spells. So we have largely artifacts in our deck. We've got mostly artifact and artifact creatures, so we are not really held back by this at all, but it's a great hate bear that really sort of works with the deck quite well. Adaptive Automaton. It's a Lord for golems or any creature type that you may choose. I think it's a great card. It will enter. It'll enter the battlefield as a construct, not as a golem. So it'll enter as a construct, and then you tell it to become a golem. So it's not going to get triggers off of some of the effects we have for casting golems. But still a great Lord and a good, well-costed card. Burnished Heart. It's just a ramp spell. We're in white, so we don't have a whole bunch of ways to do it, but because it is an artifact creature, we're going to be really happy when we get an extra card draw off it as well. One of the new cards, Dig Site Engineer. It is a 2 and a white. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. This creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So these are going to get huge so fast. It is absolutely insane how quickly these are going to get absolutely massive. Foundry Inspector, it's just ramp. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so all of our artifacts are going to be less. Metalworker, this is a bit of an absolute nut card in this deck. So you tap it to reveal any number of artifacts in your hand, add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool for each card revealed this way. So totally busted if you've got the right amount of artifacts in your hand. You can easily generate 10 mana, 12 mana, and play out some of your top end straight away. We've got Shimmer Mirror, as I alluded to earlier. This is going to let us cast our artifact spells as though they had flash, so essentially we just want to be playing one on each turn, drawing a card. playing another one on each turn. And with enough discount effects, it's going to be awesome because we can just do it each turn for free, draw another card, and go for gold. Golden Guardian, it's a defender golem. It is 4 mana for a 4/4, pay 2. Golden Guardian fights another target creature you control. When Golden Guardian dies, return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. So when we actually look at the flip, it is Goldforge Garrison. Add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool, or create a golem. So yeah, it's essentially a golem engine, which is absolutely nuts. Next up, we have Joyra's Familiar, which is another, I guess, artifact ramp card. You know, makes everything's cost less, so we're really happy if we have that. Yeah. Lodestone Golem, non-artifact spells cost 1 more to cast. So as I mentioned, because we've got so many artifacts, it's more than 50 in the deck, you know, it's going to be affecting our opponents a lot more than it's going to be affecting us. Master Splicer, it is a whenever Master Splicer enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 golem artifact creature token, and it's a golem lord. So golems you control get +1/+1. Rebek, Architect of Ascension. This is a protection spell, so each artifact that we control has protection from converted mana cost equal to the number of artifacts that we have. Among artifacts we control. So if we have a 0-drop, a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a 3-drop, they can't be blocked by any of those CMC. They can't be targeted. They can't be damaged by it. So it's pretty awesome as far as a card in this particular deck. We've got Scholarship Sponsor, which is another new card. It's pretty sweet. When it ETBs, each player controls fewer lands than the player who controls the most lands. So if you've got a ramp deck on the field, yeah, each player that has fewer less than that player searches for a number of basic land cards less than or equal to the difference, and puts those cards back onto the battlefield tapped and shuffles. So you can imagine your green player or your rainbow player is just storming ahead with their land count. It's turn 3 and they've got 5 already, and then you play this, and everyone else on the table gets to play catch up. And the main reason that we want this card in our deck is because if we can thin out all of our non-artifact spells as best as possible, then it's going to allow us to storm off a lot better. So yeah, absolutely critical that we get that card. Solemn Simulacrum, also a golem. When Solemn Simulacrum enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tap. I honestly don't know why I'm telling anyone about this card. If you don't know this card, you probably haven't been playing Magic very long, in which case that's fine, but this is just an awesome card already, but the fact that it's a golem makes it sweet as. Bronze Guardian, another new golem card. It is Double Strike and Ward, which is a new ability. It's like Hexproof, except it's softer, so you just have to pay the ward value. And other artifacts you control have ward too, so it essentially gives everything a soft hexproof. You have to pay 2 to target any of our artifacts. And Bronze Guardian's power is equal to the number of artifacts that we control. So just a sweet card in the deck. I've got Khan's Silver Golem. Whenever Khan is blocked or becomes blocked, it gets -4/+4 until end of turn. So it's a great blocker, and then we can use it to activate target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost until end of turn. I think mostly this one was included for flavor. I think it's a sweet card overall, and we just love it. Kuldotha Forge Master. So this is a bit of a tutor card in the deck. Sacrifice 3 artifacts, search your library for an artifact card and put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Sweet. Conduit of Ruin. So you're probably wondering, why is an Eldrazi in a artifact golems deck? Well, Conduit of Ruin is really cool. So first of all, first creature spell that we cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. So we have that flash ability. We have a few flash abilities in the deck. So this is going to further reduce those costs, which is insane. But secondly, it can be used to go and find our big hitters, which don't have to be Eldrazi. In this case, they happen to be golems overall. So I'll go into those in just a moment. So it's essentially put the best card in our deck on top of our library, and then we draw it next turn. We get to play it for cheaper, and it's absolutely mental. So that's why this one's included. Darksteel Sentinel, Flash, Vigilance, Darksteel Sentinel is indestructible, and it's a golem. It's a 6-drop. It's way overcosted, but it does have flash, so it is cool if you don't have any of your other creatures that give flash or any of your other abilities to give flash. You can use Darksteel Sentinel to basically draw a card as well. Razer Golem, our first affinity card, affinity for planes. It costs 1 less to play for each planes we control, and it has, I guess you'd call it vigilance. For 6 mana for a 3/4, whenever paying 6 for this, it's probably going to be free most of the time. Next up, we've got Meteor Golem. ETBs, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Sweet card. Colossus of Akros. Defender, indestructible, monstrosity 10. As long as it's monstrous, it has trample and can attack it, though it didn't have defender. So it's a 20/20 that is indestructible with trample once you've made it monstrous. So super cool. Not a great card, but very flavorful, very fun in this particular deck. Phyrexian Triniform, one of the new golems. Whenever Phyrexian Triniform dies, create 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature tokens, and it's got Encore, so we can make a whole bunch more golems as well with the Encore cost. I just like this. It's like a worm coil that's golems specifically. We don't have a worm coil. If you want to put a worm coil in this deck, I would say go for it. It's a great artifact creature. We wanted to stay with the flavor for this one. Ancient Stone Idol, flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature. Trample, whenever it dies, create a 6/12 colorless construct artifact creature token with trample. It's another golem, absolutely sweet card, and then it's got a death effect as well. We can use it to flash in someone else's combat step for a reduced price, and once again, it's another flash creature that's, it makes sense if we don't have that Shimmer Mirror or the Vidalcan Orrery. Mycosynth Golem, this is probably the best card in the deck because it has affinity for artifacts, and artifact creature spells you play have affinity for artifacts. So you put your Conduit of Ruin onto the battlefield, Mycosynth Golem goes and grabs, Mycosynth Golem goes onto the top of the library, then you cast it for probably a ridiculously low amount, maybe even free in the next turn, and then all of your creatures, all of your artifacts are reduced by the number of artifacts that you have in play. It's just absolutely insane. You'll just vomit your entire deck out as soon as you can. Blightsteel Colossus is the last card that rounds out our creatures. I think this is just a sweet golem include in the list. It's a great card in any artifact creature deck, but I think in particular with this one, yeah, just absolutely solid. Rounding it out, we've got Ugen the Ineffable and Ugen the Spirit Dragon. Both of these are pretty sweet. Colorless spells we cast cost 2 less to cast. The other abilities are very relevant as well, but it's mostly for that cost reduction and I guess the downtick, which is a destroy effect. Ugen the Spirit Dragon only exiles all colored permanents, and you would have noticed already that we've only got a few colored permanents in this deck. I think it's maybe 3 or 4 particular creatures, and then the rest are just going to be colorless, so awesome includes there. For sorceries, we've got Open the Vaults, return all artifact and enchantment cards from all graveyards to the battlefield under their owner's control. This is sort of a get out of jail free card. You know, if the board gets wiped and we didn't have a way to protect, essentially we can get everything back. And we're going to have way more than the average deck in terms of returning artifacts. All This Dust. This card just seems to be getting better and better as the sets get printed. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. So yeah, essentially you can use this to make everyone sacrifice the majority of their non-land permanents, and you'll probably have to sack 1 or 2. It's just insane how, I guess, asymmetrical the effect is going to be in this deck. For instance, we've got Dispatch, we've got Enlightened Tutor, Path, and Swords. So 3, I guess, Path effects and a Tutor at instant speed. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment card. Reveal that card to all players and put it onto the top of your deck. So you use it to go and get Mycosynth Golem, or you use it to go and get Blightsteel Colossus. Either way, it's always pretty sweet, no matter what you're going to get. Yeah, it's really flexible in this, and yeah, absolutely love it. Moving on to our artifacts, we have Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt. Both of these are just premium ramp spells, not really worth going into with what they do. If you don't know, I would say look them up. They're just great cards. Retrofit Foundry, it's kind of like a bit of an engine. We're going to get to a point where we don't have a lot of use for mana as far as creatures are concerned, so we can use these kinds of things to create more creatures using our mana on the abilities instead. So you create a servo artifact creature, then you sacrifice a servo and you create a Thopter, and then you sacrifice the Thopter and you create a construct. So it's this little loop that you can spend a whole bunch of mana on and essentially get yourself a big dude that beats for 4. We've got Top, we've got Skull Clamp, we've got Soul Ring. They're just cheap artifacts that all do absolutely insane stuff. I just absolutely love all 3 of these cards. Yeah. Wayfarer's Bauble, it couldn't be an artifact deck without including Wayfarer's Bauble. You know, essentially, thanks to Mitch for pumping up the value. I think it's a great card though, and it makes sense in this deck. Arcane Signet is a cool card in the list. It's really just because we don't have any of the regular signets that we can use, this one seems fine as a 2-mana ramp. Howling Mine, we've actually got a few extra things that we're going to be doing with this to make it a bit unfair, but it's each player draws an extra card in their untap step, in their draw step. We're going to be tapping this to basically prevent other people from doing it. Lightning Greaves, we want to protect our commander. It's not an artifact, so it means that it's not going to have a lot of the protection that we have with other things on the field, so Lightning Greaves is great for that. Sword of the Animist, it's going to thin out our deck, take out those lands. It's going to get us, it's also going to give us +1/+1. Not really relevant, but we just basically want to be getting out lands out of our deck with this one. Archaeomancer's Map. Whenever Archaeomancer's Map enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 basic plains cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle, and then whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So just another way to thin and then ramp. It's basically white cultivate if you kind of think about it. Ashnod's Altar. In this deck, you could pretty much swap Ashnod's Altar for KCI or any of the other sack outlets that you really want to. I don't think the mana is going to be super relevant over a different kind of effect, but essentially a sack outlet is going to let us do some weird and wonderful loops with our token creatures to sort of ramp out and power through our bigger stuff. Cloud Key, it makes artifacts cheaper. Golem Foundry, whenever we cast an artifact spell, you put a charge counter on Golem Factory, remove 3, make a golem. Herald's Horn, we choose a creature type, it's going to be golems. At the beginning of our upkeep, we look at the top card. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, we reveal it and put it into our hand. So it's just more card draw and a reduction cost for golems. Mirage Mirror, we've got a whole bunch of different artifacts that we're going to be able to target, so we can do cool stuff with that. Replicating Ring, I like this because we've got a little bit of a sub-theme with some counters and everything like that, so we might want to proliferate this to get it out and get it to those 8 rather than just the 1 mana rock. And we've got a lot of ways to untap things to essentially increase our ability to proliferate. Clock of Omens, tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, untap target artifact. So what we're going to be doing with this is tapping down a Howling Mine, is tapping down, in terms of our rocks, we're going to be untapping those. We're going to be using all of our weird and wonderful things to essentially power through a whole bunch of different things. Clock of Omens is a bit of a weird card. You can do lots of stuff with it when you have a lot of untapped tap effects. We've got Unwinding Clock in the deck as well, so that we can essentially get as much value out of our things that are going to tap for mana, like your Retrofit Foundry, etc. Mystic Forge, it just lets us play our deck for free, or draw our deck for free with top. We can exile cards off the top that we don't need, and we get to see what's coming as well. So if you imagine it's basically just an extra card in the hand, we can then flash cards off the top of our library in our opponent's turns, often for free as well. Nev's Disc, we do not want to activate this unless we have another piece on the battlefield, which we'll look at shortly. It destroys all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, but we can make it very one-sided. Thran Dynamo, this is what we're going to be untapping a lot with the Clock of Omens. Generates 3 each time, so just busted. Thran Temporal Gateway, 4 and 4 and tap. You may put a historic permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So this is going to cheat down our Blight Steel Colossus, our Mycosynth, our Ancient Stone Golem, our Colossus of Akros. We're just going to do all weird stuff with this. Unwinding Clock, same deal again. Untap all artifacts you control during each player's untapped step. So it's going to untap our Mana Crypt, our Soul Ring, our Thran Dynamo, all of the things that we pay mana into. So your Thran Temporal Gateway or your Retrofitter Foundry, absolutely sweet in this list. It's also going to untap all your creatures, so you've kind of got pseudo vigilance when you think about it. Vidalcan Orrery, you may play non-land cards anytime you could play an instant, so gives everything flash, absolutely sweet. Forsaken Monument, colorless creatures get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add an additional colorless. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life, so sweet engine card in this list. Vanquish's Banner. As Vanquish's Banner enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. They get +1, so it's that Lord. And then you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So yeah, absolutely insane. It's just going to help us storm off with those golems. Obelisk of Erd. So Convoke. As Obelisk of Erd enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and they get +2/+2. So pretty sweet. Planar Bridge, search your library for a permanent card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. If this resolves, you're going to win the game. You're just going to have a Blight Steel Colossus, come out, you're going to swing, it's going to be absolutely mental. Then you untap it, maybe you go and get your, you go and get your Mirage Mirror, and you make a copy of it, and then before you know it, you've got 22/22 of Infect coming out. It's just going to absolutely wipe the floor. Immortal Sun. It is a spells that you cast cost 1 less, creatures get +1/+1, and players can't activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. So we're very happy about this. We've only got the 2 Planeswalkers. I think it's absolutely great. You've just got to time how you're going to cast this. If you have an Ugen out, you want to make sure you get value from him first. Darksteel Forge. This is that piece that I was referring to that gives us our, I guess, the lack of symmetry with our board wipes with our Neb's Disc and things like that. Absolutely sweet card. We can cheat it out. We can go and find it straight away from the Planar Bridge. We can put it down from the Thran Temporal Gateway. Solid card. So that pretty much rounds out the artifacts. If we move over to the lands now, it's not a particularly, I guess, confusing list. It is Ancient Den. We've got all the fetches that we can play. Blast Zone, Buried Ruin. This is just to get an artifact card back from our graveyard to our hand. Cavern of Souls, we can use that to get our golems with cannot be countered, so that's sweet. Another artifact land. Emergence Zone, as we mentioned, it is all for the flash speed. Eye of Ugen, colorless Eldrazi spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, so you can get that Conduit of Ruin out cheaper, and then you can sacrifice it to go and search for a colorless creature card, put it in your hand and shuffle the library. So it's another tutor for our big stuff. Field of the Dead. This card is just great. Taps are colorless, so we don't mind having it in this list, but it's also solid because we can pretty easily make our, I guess, 7 different named lands. We don't have a lot of a need for, our basics, so I think we're running 4 plains, 3 snow-covered plains, and 3 wastes. So essentially we're going to be able to really easily get those zombies going. Inventor's Fair, Artifact Tutor, Khan's Bastion, it's a proliferate ability, so completely solid. Mikakoro, Center of the Sea, it's going to draw us cards, which I think is just great. We've got the Tron lands, so Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Tower, absolutely solid. Reliquary Tower, only because we have such an impact with colorless and we can draw a lot of cards. I don't like this card in most decks, it's worth it in this one. Sanctum of Ugen. Whenever you cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you may sacrifice Sanctum of Ugen. If you do, search your library for a colorless creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So it's essentially a free way to, when you cast your Eldrazi, you can then go and get a second a second creature, and put it into your hand. So essentially that Conduit of Ruin is going to put the best thing on the top of your deck and the second best thing into your hand, so you can just go bam bam and win the game on the spot. We've got Wastes, War Room. We're only paying 1 life to draw a card and 3, so absolutely solid. Winding Canyons, add 1 colorless, and until end of turn you can play creature cards whenever you could play instants. So it's just like another weird kind of flash card for that list. So that pretty much rounds up the deck. I think Losheel is a real solid choice for something like this. I really like how you can sort of make white do something in this kind of shell that it's not very good at doing usually, in that drawing cards and sort of playing at flash speed. Really hope you enjoyed the list. There will be a full description and link in the description below. So if you liked what you saw here today, really appreciate every like and subscribe. But until next time, thank you so much and bye for now.